Jackson. And on the phone, I have someone who's well known here in Kansas City. Longtime legendary percussionist. And he's played with I don't know who all he has not played with. That'll probably be one question I'll have to ask. And because he's played with, he's known with Watch 103rd Street Rhythm Band, with Charles Wright, and with Bill Withers, let's see, who else? Started out with Dyke and the Blazers, if I'm correct. And they had one of the first recordings that used the term funk in the title, Funky Broadway. And he's played with Bill Withers, The Temptations, Freddie King, Martha Reeves, Randy Crawford, Quincy Jones, Herbie Hancock, B.B. King, Albert King, Rose Royce, and the list goes on and on and on. Mr. James Gadson, how are you today?
Oh, hi, everybody in Kansas City, my hometown. Good to be talking to my brothers of that back there. Right. All right.
Well, tell me, a few years ago, weren't you inducted into the Jazz Ambassadors Hall of Fame here in Kansas City?
Yes, I was. At the time, though, I couldn't attend because I was taking my cancer treatments out here.
Oh.
And so I was very, I couldn't attend. I really regret that, but it was just one of those things I couldn't do.
Tell me, you're brutally honest. In doing some reading up on you, you're pretty honest about your first studio session and what that was like for you. Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My first studio set?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, my first studio sets were horrible. When I came from Kansas City, I came to Los Angeles as a jazz musician, and I didn't know anything about R&B. So I couldn't, nobody knew me out here per se, so they said. So I couldn't get any jazz work at that time. So I got hired to do some recording sessions, which I didn't really know. That I thought all the bands that came from that came to Kansas City recorded the music. I thought the bands that we saw with the artists that came to Kansas City recorded all their music. I didn't know they had studio musicians and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so the first 12 sessions I did were horrible because I didn't know anything about that. And eventually I got it together, though, because that was what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to travel anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, you... From what I understand, though, from one of the things that I read was that more of the hip-hop artists will sample your drum tracks than just about any other percussionist.
True, very true. I mean, I can turn on a hip-hop station and hear me literally probably almost every record, which is good in one instance, but it's bad in another instance because the writer gets paid. The musicians don't get paid for that. Mm-hmm. Not yet. They're trying to work a bill out. But, I mean, it's it's good in one way that they're using what I did because, that's saying that the younger audience, I'm appealing to what they do as far as the beat, the drum beats are concerned. So that's a good thing for that part of it. Mm-hmm. Financially, it's another thing.
Yeah.
As far as being fair because, what happened was the music changed so much that they didn't have laws for sampling. They didn't know anything about that. 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. So when the music changed, they're now just catching up to try to have laws for that. So it was a little different. They have a drum machine called the Land drum machine. It was one of the first drum machines that they used a lot of hits on. Prince, a lot of people used. They had, I guess they call it sampling then, but it was not as widely done as it is now. They used my chip on the drum machine, and many hits came from that. And they didn't have a law for that, so it was nothing I could do about that either. They finally admitted it though on the net. You can go on the net and you can see where it was finally
low.
So
now your first Motown sessions weren't necessarily as a result of your ability to read. Am I correct on that?
Right. They wanted me at Motown. They really wanted me. They said, well, hey, we don't really want you as a drummer. We'd like to sign you as an artist to sing. I had previously had a hit record with the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band called Loveland, right, which was a big pop record then. Mm-hmm. I think it was number 2 pop. I didn't want to sing at the time. I was kind of fed up with doing that. I went through some situations with the Watts band where I just didn't care if I did any singing or not. So the different producers, many great producers, they all call me, play on the session, and they say, well, hey, why you're here? Not to be a drummer, but to be, we'd like to use you, have you as an artist. Mm-hmm. And mentally, I just wasn't ready, so I just didn't do it. So I had to, I was in, big competition as far as doing the session, so I had to really do my homework and get that together.
Talking about the reading as far as
Right, the reading
percussion.
and the different styles. See, Motown, I was playing with Bill Withers and the Watts Band, and it was more R&B funk orientated. So when you got to Motown, you know, they were more. I mean, we had R&B stuff, but they were very pop orientated too.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn those styles and those pockets, you know, in order to do that. And you know, not only Motown, I mean everybody else.
Now you mentioned you talk about pop, R&B, and funk. Give me some kind of what's the difference between the different styles? Because so much, you know, if you call you turn on a pop station, you're liable to hear something that's funk on there as well.
Well, truthfully speaking, it's really no difference. It's what the industry would market and how they would market certain things.
Mm-hmm.
What it was a difference. I mean, now you see rappers on the pop chart, but it was different. They had a what they call special market charts. They had a black chart and they had a white chart. The pop charts was, you know, you were very fortunate if you got on the pop charts, but that means you had a bigger audience and you had a wider radio activity, which, you know, your records would sell bigger. So it was really no difference. It was just the way that they marketed everything until you went overseas. Now, when you went overseas, you heard all the R&B stuff, even in the airports. You know, like you hear the pop music in the airports. You heard James Brown. You heard everybody in the airports.
Right. Well, now I want to back up a little bit though. Talk about your experience with Dyke and the Blazers.
Right, yeah, that was my first. I didn't do Funky Broadway. I did a song called Funky Walk that was a hit with him. It was a big hit in Kansas City, a lot of places in the Midwest. I didn't know that it was a hit until I did the second record with him, We Got More Soul, which was a million seller, and Let a Woman Be a Woman and a Man Be a Man. And, you know, that was my first professional hit record that I played on, and it was, you know, it was great, you know, to have played on a hit record, because when I came out from Kansas City, I was doing so bad when I got out here. I said, if I just hear myself on the radio one time, then I'm cool. I'll just get a job and keep step. But you know, God, by the blessings of God, the Dyke and the Blazers recording. Although I was with the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band at the same time that I was doing Dyke and the Blazers.
I see.
It was just that I had more freedom doing Dyke and the Blazers. I was playing my stuff more free than I would the Watts Band. Even though I played, you know, the beat from Express Yourself was mine. It was just the Watts thing was a little more funk. I mean, I'm sorry, Dyke and the Blazers thing was just a little more funk orientated. Now, Tower of Power, the gentleman told, you know, I speak with the drummer, the famous drummer for them, Garibaldi.
Right.
He said they were listening to us all the time. Now, they were a pop group, but it was the way, you know, so it was just the way that everything was marketed.
Did you have a conversation? I did an interview with Larry Braggs, their lead singer, Tower of Power's lead singer, and he mentioned something about, I don't know if you actually did have a conversation with him once they did, because they did Loveland on their latest
Right, it
release.
sounds really good. I happened to hear it in Japan. I didn't hear it here. I was in Japan earlier this year. It was a great recording. They did a good job on it. It's different from what we did.
Right.
But it's a great recording. I hadn't spoken to the lead singer, but I did speak to the drummer, because he writes an article for Modern Drummer magazine.
Right. Yeah.
And he, in fact, he has an article in there now, that one of the articles that I'm doing, they use different songs, and one of Dyke's songs is that they featured in that magazine that I played on. They write it out so that people can, you know, the people that read the music for the different universities and stuff can look at it, and you know, they do different things. You know, they have discussions and everything, which is, you know, which is good. It's honorable for me. It's very flattering. So that's a good thing.
Now, when you practice and you use what they call a click, describe the click to me.
Well, the click is, they didn't use that in the 30s and the 40s and probably the 50s. It's a metronome.
Okay.
Which is what it means is it's a timekeeper. And I practice with that, and I practice without it sometimes. But what it does is it keeps your time steady, even if you don't. You might feel a groove faster than that or slower than that, but it keeps your it keeps you regimented, and And what it does is it focuses your mind to be regimented, which is a good thing. It's a very good learning tool. Now, last week I did a movie date for Christina Aguilera.
Mm-hmm.
And the computers have become so sophisticated now that they have a metronome click in the computers, and they had a song that Mae West did in the 30s. Now, in the 30s, they didn't use a click track. They used, everything has gotten so modern now. What they did was they had the music, the scene, and everything done at the same time. I thought, to me, that's a better thing because it felt much better.
Mm-hmm.
But now they have everything so metro. I guess you'd use that word. From metronome.
Mm-hmm.
They have, anyway, the click track moved. It didn't stay in the same place. It moved up and down. So it took us about 3 hours, and it was with a full orchestra to capture the song. We had to do it because Christina Aguilera was doing a movie for this.
Mm-hmm.
And the click moved. It wasn't steady. It moved up and down, and I had to be in charge of the time for the full orchestra, so that was a challenge. And by me studying with the click track, practicing with it, I was no stranger to it, and it was very helpful for me. So I advise everybody, not even drummers, but all people that are playing music to, practice with that metronome, click track, almost the same thing.
Okay. So, and now you did a few albums with Herbie and with Quincy Jones,
right?
And what did you take from those collaborations? Just mention one first and the other for that matter.
What was what?
What did you take from the collaborations you had with Herbie and with Quincy Jones?
What did I learn?
Yeah. Did you take something from that you've been able to incorporate from that point on, or?
Probably the production skills. See, what happened, I was blessed to, by me learning how to play R&B, I developed a style that, it was a signature style. A lot of people say they can tell when I'm playing.
Right.
So they wanted my style of playing, in those records that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And to watch how they would use me in those records, the jazz stuff. Now, I wasn't a stranger to jazz because I'm from Kansas City, and I came up. We had to play jazz. We had to play everything.
Right.
I'm very proud of that. Coming from Kansas City and having to experience all those different genres of music, because to work. When I was there, we had to be able to play all types of music, I mean, I even learned how to yodel. We worked some country gigs.
Mm-hmm.
My brother had a band.
Yeah.
But I got more from them, especially Quincy, on the production end of it, as far as I was concerned. It was an honor to play with him because here's Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones called me to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was great. By that time, I kind of had my skills intact, so it was work as usual to do, although it was great because Herbie Hancock was on the date that I did with Quincy Jones.
Right.
And then later I worked with Herb.
Yeah.
That was the first time I worked with him, with Quincy. Then later I did a couple of albums, played on a couple of albums that he had, which was great because it was two different things, different guy, different ways of looking at the music.
Now you did, because you did you do Mellow Madness with Quincy?
I don't remember what I did.
Okay.
I mean, it's been so many records, and it's been so long.
Okay.
I just remember the thing that I remembered mostly was we did Everything Must Change.
Right.
The guy that sung that, Everything Must Change.
I think that was Jim Gilstrap.
Yeah. No, that wasn't Jim Gilstrap. It was another guy. I can't think of his name, but that was one of the first times that I had recorded live with the singer live. They usually... The techniques, the recording techniques, they have so many different recording techniques. Most of the time we would put down, as they call tracking, we would do the music first.
Mm-hmm.
Then they would bring the singer in. But the gentleman sung when we were doing it. Then I'm in here, it was great. Herbie Hancock I'm playing, and the other people that were on the date, it was a great feeling. Quincy said, yeah, that's cool, we got it. So it's good to know when you got it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was wonderful. And Herbie, he had a different thing. I mean, his was more instrumental-like. Although I did some instrumental stuff with Quincy also.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was a different. It's different types of fusion, you know. So they were fusing rather what I did, which was coming from an R&B standpoint to the jazz standpoint.
Right.
You know, I guess they wanted to get jazz danceable again as it was at one time.
Right.
You know, jazz swing, people danced on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, now you know it's you know, everything is so many genres that you can go, which is great now. It's a wide open situation now. You know, you got the rappers using rock and the rock using rappers. I mean, it's a lot of different. You know, everything is wide open at this present time. Mm-hmm. But then they had marketed certain things, and it had to be, you know, a certain way. So, hold on just a minute. Let me talk.
Sure.
I'm doing an interview. Can I call you back? Yeah, that was your cousin.
Okay.
But that was the, you know, that was the starting of a lot of different things. They got what they call smooth jazz now.
Right.
Now, smooth jazz, when I was working at OG's in Kansas City, we played that. Mm-hmm. It was, you know, instrumental R&B.
Right.
So we played that, and it was just, we were just playing some. So now you see, they use different. You know, they market so much different now. Right. You know, so we had been doing that. You know, it's nothing new. You know.
Well, you know,
but it's just the way that they market stuff.
Well, the other thing that I remember too is I remember seeing this movie, Sweet Sweet Rachel, and I look up and there's this nightclub scene. I'll be doggone if I didn't see you get up from that drum set. I mean, saw you in there, saw you playing as Calvin Lockhart walked in the club, but I saw you get up and introduce either his character or somebody that was in the club.
Yeah.
And
so that was the first movie that black exploitation movies, as they call them.
Yeah,
that was the first one that I had that I did. I was really nervous because all of a sudden that happened. Here I am acting, you know, and I just didn't have it in me to be an actor. I just, you know, I didn't have that personality. You know, I was more of an introvert. Mm-hmm. So it took a lot for me to get up and introduce the gentleman that we were doing that movie. We called the name, I remember.
Calvin Lockhart.
But I'm in another movie now that's out now, that Adam Sandler's movie, Funny People.
Okay.
They did have a speaking part for me, but when I saw the movie, they didn't. They took it out. I don't know if it'll be in the features when they have the DVD or what, but I guess they decided not to use it. But I did have a speaking part in that one too.
Okay.
And I was a little less nervous from doing that. I guess it comes from me sitting behind the drums, because I still sit behind the drums and I sing occasionally. Mm-hmm. But as far as standing up and being in front, you know, it's a little different for me, you know, especially at these times.
Well, you know, and speaking of your, you know, back to your singing, didn't you do one? Did you record one other song besides Loveland with Watch 103rd? I think it was a Dancer Kissing a Song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was on the back of the first gold record that we had called Do Your Thing.
Right.
That was on the B side, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you, do you do any teaching or do you hold clinics or anything like that?
I do what they call a method. I teach a method sometimes to certain people. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't, right now I'm not really a little busy to, you know, just to be teaching. Some people would, you know, I think that that's very important. So if I taught, I would want to just, you know, just do that.
Okay.
So I teach what they call a method. I have a certain method that I teach. They like the 16th notes that I play and the way that I make them swing, or different, you know, different variations of what I do. You know, the beats that I brought to the, you know, to the record business. Mm-hmm. However, I've been approached to write a book, a drum book, and I'll include a lot of the beats in that. And then I'll probably go to the different universities and do what they call master classes.
Right. Okay.
Know? I'm very blessed and fortunate to have contributed, you know, what I did to the music business. You know, so I have to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, and not having a PhD on paper. Right. You know, I mean, what they're doing now in a lot of the colleges, a lot of the top musicians are being in residence, and they're, you know, offering their services, which is a great thing, I think, because it's more true to what, you know, what's going on as far as, you know, being real in the music business. Mm-hmm. So that'll do that for me. And at this point in my life, that's probably a good thing. You know, I won't play as much, you know, although I still like to play, but I'm getting up there now, and, you know, I don't need to be doing it all every day, all the time, although I love it, you know, but It is that way.
Well, tell me what current projects have you finished or currently working on that we can look forward to?
Well, Nora Jones's album is coming out. I did a couple of songs with her, who was one of my favorite singers. I enjoyed her immensely. I've done some other things, but they've been overseas, stuff. In Australia, the biggest artist in Australia. I'm going next year to Australia and do a tour with him,
Okay.
So lately it really hasn't been anybody but those people. Now, they sample me all the time. You might hear me on anybody's hip-hop stuff.
Right.
And so, I'm currently out, my sound is very current, which is a blessing. In one instance, I didn't do a lot of the hip-hop projects. I mean, I was called upon to do them. It was just that they have different situations now. If a person comes up with a drum beat on the drum machine or something, they get part of the writers.
Okay.
So when the people offered me, some work to do the hip hop stuff, I said, well, if I come in and I, create, then I would expect to, be treated that way. But they didn't seem to want to deal with that. So I shied away from it.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank you for taking some time out or getting up out of bed or whatever, given the time difference.
We're working. I'm here trying to learn these computers.
Okay. Don't feel bad. I'm learning right now too. So, but I want to thank you for taking the time out and.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, and hello, Kansas City again. My love. I was back there in August, and it was really great to be back home, and I always think of being back there, and all my friends, and say hello to them, and much love.
All right, and tell my cousin I said hi.
I sure will. I told her that I was talking to you.
Okay, then.
All right.
Take care, James.
All right.
Bye-bye. And that was James Gadson, drummer extraordinaire.